Welcome back, everybody, to the Express Podcast. We want to first thank you for being patient with us. Our schedules have been absolutely insane. Obviously, with Dansby starting back.
My bad.
Starting back the year, but I mean, I'm getting married this month, and Mitchell is doing his thing.
Just a 2-time softball MVP.
If
you're on the YouTube page, came straight from softball, so.
Yeah, for
just
our viewers.
Dansby's not the only athlete. I think we've touched on that before.
No, we're arguably
they're
top in the state. We're going to be fighting for a championship on Tuesday night, so number one seed in Cobb County. So
true.
You are what you tell yourself. Basically.
Well, we'll get into that.
Well, with a 100-plus run differential, it's really not what we tell ourselves. It's just a stat.
Yeah.
But to kind of
facts are facts.
Facts are facts. I cannot argue that. It is what it is. But I do want to start with everyone just kind of saying, what are some of the things you've been working on during this journey? It's been about a month since we've put out an episode, and I want everybody to kind of understand that when we are not putting out an episode and when we're not making content or doing stuff like that, it doesn't mean we're not in the book. It doesn't mean that we're not actually doing those things that we have been talking about in previous episodes. So I just kind of want to take a second and kind of update everyone on what have you been working on? What are some of the ways this book has kind of impacted the stuff you've been working on, and just kind of how's that been going? Because a lot of the listeners are on this journey too, and I definitely do appreciate you all reaching out on Instagram. I send these guys the stuff that you send us and the positive affirmations and the groups that you're doing it with. So, Mitch, what's some stuff you've been working on?
I think mainly it's just trying to stay consistent. Like I feel like I kind of like get caught up in waves. Like I'll be like 100 miles an hour for like 2 weeks and then nothing for 2 weeks. And then I get back on track. So I'm really just trying to like make sure I'm reading every day, whether it's this book or something. And then like having that alone time, because I'll get caught up like, oh, I got this, and this to do. Like I don't have 10 minutes to literally just go be with myself, be with God. So I'd say just trying to like stay consistent is my main thing.
Yeah, I'd say we're one the same. And some of that, like I know that, I mean, people may laugh because I'm a professional athlete, but even dedicating that same like consistent mindset to something is really tough. I feel like that even in my career, that's kind of been the thing, right? Like 3 months are really good and 3 months aren't good. Like how do you generate the consistency all the time? And I think that really, like, I heard someone say this the other day and it just really stood out to me. It's how you do one thing is how you do anything, or like how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Right.
And so I think this book is like the thesis of that, right? Like this book, you can tell that if you go about your days the right way and you set your routine and you're rooted in the right things, then everything, like God lives in those moments and he will bless and flow everything through that time. And so I think the same as Mitch, really been focusing on each morning having to spend time in scripture, spend time in the word, spend time in prayer, and just really start my day off the right way. Has led to good results and just consistency on the field, consistency just of, some days are better than others. Some days you feel better than others, and that's fine, but it's the consistency and grace of God that continues to kind of flow through you and get you through each day. So I'd say that those are kind of been my biggest things. And I'd say the last thing is I've just been praying a lot about just allowing God to like restore and renew my masculine soul, like we've talked about before, because it's like asking him to reveal those things instead of me like searching for them, allowing him to just reveal them to me in due time. And I feel like a lot of that we kind of get into in these couple chapters.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing that I've been trying to do. Obviously, consistency is just a huge thing, but with this, and you will experience this, Dan, as you get closer to your day, but I was talking to Lex about this, I think last night, maybe the night before, just like how awesome life is right now. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like we can all kind of relate to this. Like at some point, like you're living the dream that you once had. And so I told her, I was like, I love every second of every day, and I'm trying to be present in every second of every day. And like, yeah, we're doing so much, but like, especially with me getting married this month, like all these things are kind of like happening, and your wedding kind of jumps up on you, and yours will jump up on you, especially with you being so busy with the season. But it's like now that I'm 3 weeks out or whatever, I'm trying to just enjoy every little second of everything that I can possibly get, even if it's playing a softball game or just sitting on the couch or maybe watching you play a game or whatever it is. I'm just trying to take the most in of that, but I'm also trying to do that. I'm trying to gain that by alone time in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so I've started back up the yoga routine. Big shout out to Mitch. Shout out to Cassandra.
Shout out Cassandra.
She got a 30-day challenge. We're on day 4. Tomorrow will be day 5.
It all starts somewhere.
I've done day 1 probably
X amount
12
of
times because it's my favorite one she has on our 30-day. It's good.
You got to come out the gate swinging.
Yeah,
day 1's got to be a good one.
Yeah. Anyways, but I've been trying to be more consistent and just being more present every single day, which has ultimately, I've noticed, it makes me more grateful for what I have and what we've achieved. And it just makes you, I just feel like it makes you in a better mood about life, because life could be so much worse for me. And I've been through those times where it's been so much worse. So now that I've achieved, I've finally kind of, I'm not saying I've achieved all my dreams, but at one point this was my dream. And so the fact that we're doing it, I read my journal the other day that I keep, and I was just kind of flipping back through my pandemic stuff for the writing. And then I was flipping back and I found my first journal entry after we did our first podcast. It was the day after. And it said, I was just talking, it was awesome to have you two here. And this is something we have been talking about. I'm so interested to see where this goes, or if it turns into anything. And then
here we are,
with slowly just gaining a little bit of following. But I've just been trying to do that and, trying to figure out to become a king, which leads me to my next question before we get into the chapter of becoming good soil is, how is our process of becoming a king going? Because I feel like we kind of say all these things and everyone's just kind of what you all are talking about it, but how's it going?
I mean, I think it kind of
flows from the last question.
Yeah, it kind of goes with the consistency thing. It's ebbs and flows. It's when I'm on, I'm on, bro. I'm killing it. And then go on that 2-week, 3-week little dry spell where it's I get in bed, I'm what did I do today? Or how did I better myself today? Or how did I try to bring glory to God's kingdom today? Did I, try to think back on kind of some actions? Did I handle this situation right? Maybe not, maybe, but getting to the point where it's every day, wake up, read this stuff, and that's how I want to go about each day, and just this, we always say, the slow cook.
Yeah, no, I think, man, it's such a challenge, because the more you read this book, the more you realize we can sit here and talk about becoming a king, but seeing how it is a slow cook, it's not a year process. This is it's a decade process, and I think
a lifetime process.
I think that I keep saying this, when I'm talking to Mal or whoever, just I feel age has a lot to do with that for me. Because if I'll think about when I was 23 and the things that were not necessarily important to me, but just slowly but surely time has allowed me to get wiser and a little bit more almost calm to some degree, and just kind of take everything and just kind of be able to just decompress it out. I feel I've gotten a lot better with. But this book, I feel just is a continuous challenge, and he even alludes to it over the next, few chapters about I'd rather just reread this book a ton and chew on each chapter thoroughly to continue to have it influence me in the right way, instead of going and reading another self-help book or this self-help book, and then you read a ton of them, and it's you have so many things that you haven't identified the actual roots of what you need to do to become a man. But I mean, overall, it's ascending in the right direction, but I would say it's much more for those of y'all that aren't watching, it's 0.001 per, slope.
Yeah.
It's,
but it's increasing.
It's increasing, but it ever so slightly.
Well, and that's what he talks about kind of in here too. It's a slow increase, but then you start building and building, and it kind of turns into that exponential
curve. Yeah.
Versus linear for my boy Mace over here.
Well, that
a little math for you.
A couple of things. when you're talking about wisdom, because that's one of the, well, you weren't really talking about, you're talking about like, gaining
just
wisdom.
growing in wisdom.
Growing
Yeah.
And so he talks about this idea of, in the very first thing he talks about, he says, choosing wisdom as our guide.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question that I had for y'all is, like, legitimately, when I say, and listeners as well, when you think of the word wisdom, what do you think of? Because I think of some
just an old head
man,
just
just some old dude who just know anything and everything. Like my car's
if you
making
ask a question, he knows the
my car's
answer.
making this weird noise. Yeah, you need to put soap on the fan belt. What?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, get a bar of Dove.
Google didn't say that.
Google didn't say that. I'm telling you, do it, and then it goes away, and you're like, how do you? I've just done it before, man.
Yeah.
Lived it.
But like, what do you, besides like an old man, like kind of when you hear the word wisdom, like what are you thinking about?
Books. Like, I mean, there's just like so many books that have so much wisdom that people have invested their lives in. Like, to write that one book, the Bible. Like,
I'll give you a completely different answer than the one you're probably thinking.
Mitchell.
Negative. What do I think of? It honestly, when I hear wisdom, it generates a. I'll let them have their moment.
That was so good.
When I think of wisdom, it generates more of like an inner feeling than it does like of what do I think about. It creates more of like a feeling, and to me that feeling is like when you do feel like you're in a wisdom mode. Like, what does that feel like? And I feel like it's very like peaceful, calm, collective. You know, I just feel like wisdom is unfazed, if that makes sense. That no matter what's thrown at you, no matter what life brings, you just feel like in control of that moment. And I think that when I hear the word wisdom, it's like that feeling of just like some inner peace,
almost like
showing up
prepared.
Yeah, because you know, like, what does wisdom do when you and your significant other, had a bad day,
right?
Or and that feeling of just the confidence knowing that things will get resolved. I feel like that's like the kind of feeling. It's like this confidence, this like peace, that kind of rises up within me. It's not necessarily like who do I think of? Yeah. I mean, because that would be my dad. But
right, that's kind of what I mean. That's why I ask questions. And I was kind of thinking about this. I had read this chapter one morning, and then I had gone to the gym early, and there was some older gentleman in the sauna with me, and so of course, he strikes a conversation with me at 6 a.m. He's, oh, hey, like, what's, just start talking. And we got on the conversation of, I'm getting married, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you married? Yeah. I was like, how long? He's like, I got 25 years.
There you go.
And then he just starts speaking to me about marriage and some of the problems and the choosing, the same kind of stuff that you hear.
But when you say you're getting married,
like, oh,
everybody that's married,
let me tell you something.
Let me tell you something. It's tough, but it's the most rewarding thing you'll ever do.
You got to pick your battles now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I went through for, 45 minutes. But it made me think, like, when I was just kind of listening to him talk and him explain kind of how he views certain situations. And because, he had his 5 or 6 key things. And it just kind of fits that picture. And then he said something that stuck with me. He said, I've learned a lot over my 25 years. He's like, I thought when I first got married that I was going to, learn some things, but then we're going to figure out and be whatever. And he goes, it's a constant thing.
A constant
like
growth.
You're consistently growing together. And when I heard that, I immediately thought of this book, and I was like, it's a long thing. Like we keep talking about, like, it's not being consistent going to the gym for a year. It's a lifestyle thing. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to be fit, like you can go to the gym for a year, sure. But
if you're looking to be content, like when you get married and it's like, oh, we're never gonna like have whether it's either any issues or growth or whatever. Like once we figure it out. That's like the most evil words of all time is that when we figure it out, because truly you never figure anything out.
No, throw a kid
and the
in
more
there.
that you have that like mentality going, I feel like it leads to this consistent growth together. Now we're sitting here talking about marriage, but even just in wisdom. I feel like, and on this journey of becoming a better man and becoming a king, once you think you figured it out, well, guess what, brother? You've already missed what's ahead of what's supposed to ascend you even further. And I think that's something that's I'm glad that you kind of pointed that out.
Well, yeah, and the reason I kind of want to transition here is because he starts getting into his 5 habits of the foundation of growth, or like to help us grow,
which we just talked about. Like
a lot of them.
Each 5, we've all been told before in our lives, and we've all not necessarily. They're kind of like obvious. You read them and you're like, well, yeah. And his argument's like, it's that simple. It is that simple. Like God the Father laid the blueprint through his son, Jesus Christ, how to be the best man possible on earth.
Follow it.
Here it is. Follow it.
Quit making it so difficult.
Right. You don't need all these self-help books.
Yeah.
No.
Be a disciple of Jesus. And,
then you start trying to follow it, and all these other things start flooding into your life, and you're like, it's not just that simple. And that's kind of part of the journey too, because you're growing. And so like the first one says, the habit of no shortcuts, which we've all, I mean,
there's no shortcut to success.
How many times have you been running a suicide or a gasser and someone said, well, that you didn't touch that line, that inch right there is going to cost us. No shortcuts.
Do them again.
Back on the line. Check them in. But
check them in, coach.
Check them in, coach. Coach Hines, offensive line coach. But there is no short, and that's so true. But again, we know, but yet everyone's looking for a self-help book. Everyone's looking for this quick fix. Everyone's looking for right now, especially in this kind of age with like kids and the amount of people the parents that send us this, I don't know if y'all know this, but the amount of parents that send me DMs on Instagram for the Express that say, I made my son watch this, is like mind blowing. Like it's kind of insane. Like they're like, oh, you, that email, right? Yeah. It's like these parents are trying to get their sons, which is awesome, or just their children to do these things. And like, yeah, it's simplistic of no shortcuts, but dadgummit, it is hard to do.
Well, I think especially like right now, it's just like everyone wants like the easy option because, we get fed, 6-minute abs, bro, and like everybody's ripped.
The now. He said the gospel of now.
Yeah,
that's like,
it's
instant gratification.
Where's my package? We're just like, we're in the time now where it's like, it's different from where our parents and grandparents grew up. Like they didn't have these tools that we have and these distractions or whatever. So it's just like we constantly are fiending for like that. I want it now.
Well, think about like even relationships, right? When nowadays you can FaceTime, text, call, do what, you can do anything now with the, phone services and stuff we got. But if you think about like our grandparents, like
they were writing letters
and they were waiting for a letter to get there in the mail.
Days,
blows
weeks.
my mind.
That's crazy.
I think about that.
Or maybe a landline if they were lucky.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I think about that like, and we're not trying to sound old or those people, but maybe we'll come off as that. But like, think about when we were kids. Like if we wanted to hang out with each other, we weren't texting each other.
I still know Mason's home phone number.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna put it on.
Don't put it out there.
Yeah, but I know it.
Poor soul has it now. But like the numbers on the door, like on the inside of the cabinet.
You had the index card you walked around with to make sure you had everybody's phone number.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Like it's just different. And I wrote down something. I said, the instant gratification the world wants today only fills your heart in the short term. The gratification of doing what he called you to do fills it for life. And that's the same thing. Like if you don't want to be a lukewarm Christian and you want to actively search, like you have to actively seek. Like you have to actively seek him. It's not something that, you can get the Bible app or whatever and they can send you a verse at 10 a.m. every day, but like you still have to open it. You still have to read it. You still have to act in that way.
Man, the more I'm not going to say it frustrates me. And I think the reason that I get so worked up about this is because we're all just so convinced like we do the minimum requirement and like God is supposed to bless us in these ways. And I also think that we also forget that like God's not just, it's not like a merit-based thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not that if you work super hard, God's going to just grant you what you want. It's not like a genie. But I think at the same time, we
because
also...
it's what you want.
Right.
It's not what he wants.
I think that so rare do we actually take the time to sit in stillness to understand what he wants. And I think that if we understand what he wants, then that's when we get blessed 10 times. And we talk about like patience and this whole journey, we just always skip over the fact that Jesus didn't start his ministry. Like I'm 28 and he hadn't even started his ministry yet.
No. Isn't that crazy?
And we're sitting here like stressed about what our purpose and calling is and what we should be doing. But yet Jesus, he waited 30 years before he started his ministry.
Dude, I don't know. This is kind of off topic, but I just felt like sharing it. So have y'all recently, or I don't know, since you've been an adult, watched the movie The Passion of Christ?
I've never seen it, no sir.
Dude, have you seen it? What?
Yeah.
Dude, Lexi's dad and I were sitting there watching it. It was going up to Easter, and we're sitting there watching it, and her and her mom and her sisters are doing wedding stuff or whatever. And it's the part where, he is basically telling them, like, you're going to deny me 3 times before. And it's like going through the whole thing, and then him in the square and him getting beat. First off, that movie, I was not prepared for the graphics.
I've heard, yeah.
But we're sitting there watching it, and it's like, it almost brought like me and her dad to like tears, and we're like kind of talking about it, like if it affects me that much watching a fictitious like I cannot imagine being there or going through that or whatever. But kind of, I don't know why that was on my brain, but jumping back to what you were talking about is people also get caught up in having failures and thinking it's not what they're supposed to do because they just stop at a failure, which is his second point.
Is it the second point?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's embracing failure.
Embracing failure.
And again, like, how many times have you heard nobody's perfect? Everybody fails. When you fall, get back up. Like, stand up, let's go. Like, you hear it all the time, but again, it's so easy to hear everybody fails. It's so hard to get back up and keep going and reevaluate and keep striving towards your goal or becoming that king. Like, it's hard.
Man, he says something real interesting. I'm just going to read real quick. It just says, most men stop at failure. When we operate as orphans or from a place of self-sufficiency, we often cannot muster the strength to move through failure. And I think that just, once again, just shows us that the vine, the branch, like, our life flows from God. And the more that we rely on self, the more that we are trying to be self-sufficient, control everything ourselves, that's when we get worn and beat down. And partially probably why you and I struggle with, the consistency is because we're trying to do it ourselves instead of letting the strength flow through the Spirit.
Letting him fuel you.
Yeah.
Like, and that I think I might be jumping ahead, but I don't want to get into that, but him fueling you to accomplish those things is so big. Did y'all like his little man in the arena?
I was gonna say shout out man in the arena.
Yeah. It's always the
a
best.
banging
I
quote.
know.
Yeah.
It's so good. Page 108.
It's real,
if y'all
man.
want to. It is.
It's
like,
real.
It's.
I mean, it's always a banger.
Well, does that hit differently for you being a? I mean, we
We
embrace
did
that
like
as
a
a
whole
softball.
like all things loyal drop with that.
We did.
quote on
Mhm.
there.
I know, but I've never really heard you speak on it.
I mean, there's a couple different ways I can go with it. I think the reason that it stands out so much is because it gives us such a visual image of literally my life, right? Like,
Yeah.
I am in an arena and I am competing against other people in front of thousands of people
Who all have
who
opinions.
either like me, hate me, or indifferent, or any other.
Happy to be there.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it pretty much is my life. Like, this quote signifies and symbolizes the things that, it's like when I fail, I fail. Like,
Yeah.
it happens, but I'm out here doing it. I
Yeah.
don't see you doing it.
That's right.
I see
keep
you. I
doing
see
it.
you. I see you being entertained by me doing it.
Right.
But I don't see you out here competing. And so I try and not take it too like personal with this quote, but I think it's just so like it relates to everyone because everyone's got their own arena. And I think that each person's arena is essentially like their life and the life that God has given them. And I think that it's almost like if I'm going to go down swinging, brother, I'm going to go down swinging. Like, I'm going out on my terms. I'm going out who God's called me to be. And if that's how I go out. That's how I go out. And I think that there's a lot of confidence that can be taken from that, because I think like Jesus personifies that quote better than anyone. And the reason I say that is because like there were people that hated Jesus. There were people that preyed on his downfall. Like there were people that always wanted his attention. There were people that all they wanted was to touch him. Like he had to be the most popular man of all time, honestly. Like he couldn't go anywhere without whole
Mobs,
cities following him. Some of them trying to kill him, some of them trying to arrest him. Like I said, some people worshiping him. Like he couldn't go anywhere.
That's kind of like you know what I mean? Like obviously it's unimaginable, but
And yet he handled it so gracefully, bro. Like I think that's what's so not inspiring about Jesus, because there's obviously a lot, but when it comes to like relatability, man, sometimes you just be getting tired of people wanting stuff.
Yeah.
But yet he handled it so gracefully. And I know they talk about this later on, but just like his commitment to the Father is what allows him to do all those things. That's where like all the blessings flow. And I think that more and more and more you realize that like this present moment, God lives in the present moment. He doesn't live in the past. He doesn't live in the future. He lives right now. And in order to fully experience him, you have to be brought back to this present moment, which is why
that's the next one.
Yeah,
well,
like,
it's like the lowest seat than living in the present. But
that's where God is found. And, you know, and in the next chapter too, we get into like the practical ways in which you can do that. But if you look at throughout the history of time and at Jesus and how he lived his life, everything he did was to bring him centered to now.
it's powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Like you spend, and most of us do this. I just got here and was talking to you about what I got to do in the future.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
Like you spend most of your time talking about what you have to do or what you've just done, instead of enjoying and being where you are. And like I think Nick Saban says it all the time. Like be where your feet are. Like you have to focus on where you are, because anything in the past is done, and anything in the future you can't control.
It's like they say in baseball too. It's just like, oh, Michael, can y'all hear me?
I can't now. Yeah.
Like in baseball, it's just like short memory. Like when you boot a ball or something, like that play's gone. Like there ain't nothing you can do about it now. Don't let it affect the now and like what's about. You know, like you got another one coming at you, bro.
It's like golf.
We don't have to get into golf.
No, we don't need to get into golf.
I'm not fix your cord. I'm not saying like, but like it's the same kind of idea. Like
My Gucci?
yeah, you let one shot affect your other one, like it's gonna trickle down. I'm not trying to have a golf lesson, but that's Let's go back though about choosing the lowest seat.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've never heard that.
You've never heard that?
No, I've never heard that phrase. Have you heard that phrase?
I kind of took it as like just off rips reading it, just like kind of being like that servant leader.
Yeah, that's how it's like servant leadership.
Yeah, just
The lowest man on the totem pole, making sure everyone else is taken care of before you.
yeah, everybody eats before you.
Yeah.
I guess I had never heard the lowest seat before.
Yeah, I mean, you.
Well, it's like Jesus washing his disciples' feet.
Yeah. So yeah, that one kind of was interesting because too, I feel like when you are that lowest, seat or low man on the totem pole, it teaches you a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, it humbles you, and I think that's kind of the point too, because we talked about it before too, and Dansby a couple episodes ago, and just talking about like now, it's like a man's defined by like his success and being the head honcho and being the leader and being CEO and making all this money and all this, but it's like, whose feet is he washing? Like acting like Jesus is like, Dansby just said Jesus was the most sought after man ever, and he still had time to wash his disciples' feet.
And wanted to.
Right.
Yeah, he wasn't. I mean, he was.
He was teaching them a lesson. Mm-hmm. But even I can just imagine Jesus walking everywhere, and like, I just can't imagine Jesus like putting himself above or in front of everyone else. Like he was, first of all,
Imagine
God
him
humbled
telling you he's gonna
himself.
wash your feet. Like, I want to wash your feet. You're like, what?
Well,
Like, no, dude, like,
Just comprehend that God humbled himself so much to the point that he made himself man.
yeah,
Like,
to die.
yeah,
sent to die. Yeah.
sacrifice himself. And not just to die, to like brutally be crucified.
Yeah, and
The,
I mean,
the first shall be last and the last shall be first.
yeah, I mean, it does teach you a lot. It definitely humbles you, as you were saying. But
I mean, I feel like all 5 of these are almost so simple that it's kind of how you want to take them. Like, there are no shortcuts.
yeah,
What was the second? There are no shortcuts.
no shortcuts. And then the second one is embracing failure.
Embrace failure. Choose the lowest seat.
Choose the lowest seat. Living in the present.
Live in the now. And then
Speed soul.
speed soul.
Which is interesting that he puts that at 5, because I feel like it's kind of like, if you don't have the right speed soul, you won't be able to do any of those things.
Well, is he putting these in order?
I don't know if they're in order. He might just be listing them.
I'm
could be
assuming
listening.
he probably put them in order though.
I would imagine he did.
So do you think that's a solid 5, like being 5th? Like, do you think that, because he's talking about slowing down, so he's like trying to what you were talking about, like maximize the most you can out of the day, or maximize the most you can out of the book. Like, instead of like you said, instead of trying to read 52 books a year, read 2 and read them well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so he talks like just slowing down the everyday process so that you can live in the present.
I think because to me it's no shortcuts. Like, work through everything. You got to go through it.
Yeah.
There's no way around it, over it. You got to go through it. Then you got to embrace failure along that same path, right? Like, you got to embrace these things. Number 3, be a servant. Be a servant leadership.
Along the way.
Like Jesus served. You are supposed to serve. If you want to become a disciple of Jesus, you do what he did. He served. Live in the present moment, which he also did. Prayer, silence, and solitude. Wherever his feet were. Someone was Walt Weiss, our bench coach. He'll say, I got a quote for y'all today. Wherever you are, there you go. He'll say something like that, like, or wherever you go, there you are. It's like, in a funny way, that's the kind of same thing. Like, wherever you're going, be there.
Yeah.
Be where your feet are. And then after all you do those things, like, you need to know the speed in which you're, like, those are all external. And I feel like this one's like internal. Like, and then at the end of the day, do each of these with love. What does he say? Like, do less or do more slower.
Yeah.
And love more. You know, it's like, I feel like it's the kind of like overarching theme of all these.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the
tied
big
in
umbrella
together.
of like the wisdom. Like, those are the 5 tools for the wisdom factor that we're
Yes.
supposed to be aiming to get to. Like,
yeah.
those are the literally broken down wisdom, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like,
I
you
mean,
do
that's
those 5 things very well, you become very wise.
that's a good point.
Thank you.
There's another thing I wanted to go over in this chapter if y'all are down. It's right at the end, and he goes over the
The different
Types of
soils.
soil.
parable of the types of soil. Yeah.
Okay, go on.
And it was interesting because when you read that story in the Bible, you think, well, which soil am I? And instead, he's asking the question of, no, you're actually all 4. In which areas of your life are you? What certain things? And how can you basically start to excavate, as he likes to call it, tear down these other parts and fill it up with good soil?
Yeah. Get the tiller out.
Right. Get the tiller out.
Yeah. Gotta get your hands dirty.
Yeah, that's very interesting that he kind of puts it like that, because it's so true. Like, again, part of this journey, you're going to uncover some parts of yourself that are bad soil.
And some of your bad soil, Mitch and Mace, may not be necessarily bad soil for me.
It could be your rich soil.
Right.
Just depends on what it is.
I mean, there's 3 different kinds of bad soil, only one good soil. Like, there's much more ways that, we could be struggling trying to get to that good soil.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of the idea. The only person that's got completely good soil.
Facts.
And like we always say, what's the best The best ability is availability, but the best characteristic for me is self-awareness.
Yeah. Final thoughts.
Slow down. I think he said somewhere in there, I might butcher it, but he's like, it kind of reminds me of what white men can't jump when they listen to Jimi Hendrix. He's like, man, you listening to Jimmy, you're not hearing Jimmy. It kind of reminds me of that. Like when you're so sped up, like you think you're listening to God, but you're not hearing God.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's always in the present, but until you slow down and really start hearing him, you're not going to get the messages that he's trying to send to you and the riches that he's trying to bestow upon you.
Yeah. Because, again, if you're not in the present, future or past, he ain't there.
Yeah, I'd say for me, the present moment's where God lives, and only in the present moment can you experience what he's got in store for you. Till you're at peace, like God operates in peace. Until you're in peace, God ain't gonna be operating within you.
Yeah. I'm with both of y'all, but since I'm trying to work on slowing down, being in the present, I'm gonna say that was my biggest takeaway, especially because I've been trying to do that, and then I read this chapter and I was like, that's how God works. It gives you what you're, because I was probably looking for the right thing, but
I was gonna say, it's like
I
when
had
you go to that
effectively-
church service and
he's talking to me. Yeah.
It's like you read this chapter and it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
You're like, he wrote this with me.
Yeah, he was in the present as he's sitting over me watching, like, yep, turn the page. Got
Yeah,
something.
I mean, I would just challenge everybody to find one area in your life that you can truly slow down. Like, whether it's in the morning, whether it's, if you're a parent and it's like, man, slow down that time at night when you're just like enjoying your wife and your kid, like just enjoying playing with him. Like, love more. He says, do less,
Yeah.
love more, go slower.
Yeah, be present.
Challenge yourself I'm not talking like tomorrow. I'm talking for the next, like,
For your lifetime.
I was going to say for at least for the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh.
Find like the one thing that you want to do slow and do it slow.
Yeah. Value it. Value the time that you have.
Drink
Definitely. Drink it in. Drink it
And,
slowly.
and that's the way that you excavate the building, right? Like, you don't just tear the whole thing down. You
Slowly.
clean out this level. Okay, got that one. Clean out this level. And you keep going.
Yeah. It's a work in progress. Keep going. If you're just listening to this is going to be on YouTube if you want to look at our faces and watch us. If you are watching this on YouTube, we definitely appreciate you guys. There will be another episode definitely coming out after this. So we thank you all for being patient. And as always, we just appreciate your support. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, all the above. So appreciate you guys.
Yeah.